Hello, I'm Joe Tidy. This is the post-election analysis show where you can have your voice and your say within the national conversation following last week's election. This is Outvoted. So, apathetic, uninformed, or just plain bored? The younger generation are perceived to have not engaged in politics. A week ago, nearly 60% of 18 to 25-year-olds cast their vote in the ballot box. However, that means that 40% didn't. So what's stopping the younger generation from engaging in politics? Today we're here in Bournemouth with a studio audience of 18 to 24-year-olds from across the area. We're going to hand over to them shortly, where they'll be asking a panel of party representatives any burning questions they may have. On our panel today, we have Connor Burns, Conservative MP for Bournemouth West, Martin Holden, former UKIP candidate for Bournemouth West, Lizzie McManus, who stood in Bournemouth West last week for the Green Party, Bob McNair, who is the press spokesperson for Christchurch Labour Party, and Mike Thornton, who is the former Liberal Democrat MP for Eastleigh. And those of you at home have also got a chance to have your voice heard. You can head online and join the debate by using the hashtag Outvoted. Okay, let's get started. You at home have voted for our first question in an online poll. The question which received the most amount of votes was, I didn't vote for a Conservative government and yet they're in. Why should I feel engaged in politics? So I'll throw that one straight to Connor Burns.
The simple answer is the result was the result. That was under the system, the result that was delivered. But you can still engage, and you still should engage, because you can still influence and change things. Whilst the government's there, the government's still open to influence, to pressure, to argument. So it's as worth engaging now as it was the day before polling day.
Bob McNair, you came close, not that close, but you were the second place, we should say. I mean, do you think that Labour would have done better to serve a younger generation?
I think we could certainly have done better to try and get our message across to younger people. I think all the parties could have, really. It's not just a failure for Labour. I wish we had. I think there was more we could have done. Perhaps some policies which made us stand out a little bit more from some of the other parties. That was an accusation we had, which I feel was very unfair. And yeah, we certainly could have perhaps got the message across a lot better than we did.
Lizzie McManus of the Green Party, I mean, it's fair to say that the Greens have a lot of support with young people and particularly students. Do you think that that translated in the election? Are you pleased with how you got your message across?
Yeah, really pleased, especially in Bournemouth West. I think the average result for the Green Party was 3.8% nationwide, and in Bournemouth West I got 7.4%. So I'm really happy with that. And I think that's a lot to do with how we made it one of our key goals to engage with young people, because we know that they're feeling a little bit disenchanted with the way things have been run. And we want to see that change moving forward.
Okay, let's get a question from the studio audience then. Yeah?
Quite a lot of this campaign was put on like fear, like you don't want to vote Labour because that will give you the SNP and such and such. Is this kind of a reflection of how modern politics is going, that they're just trying to scare you of the other party, or could we go back to actually talking about what policies individual parties have and the benefits of having them in government?
We need to be far more positive. We need to stop talking as if every other political party doesn't have any good ideas. And there's a lot of stuff that the Green Party do that I thoroughly agree with and approve of, and would love to work with them on that. And wouldn't it be great if we had a voting system where we could actually work together on things of interest rather than fight all the time?
Martin, do you think this was a campaign won on fear?
Yes. I mean, I had so many conversations with people and we had such a lot of support as we were going around. But then in the last few days of the election, people were saying almost to a T the same thing, was that we would love to vote for you, you've got the most sensible manifesto, we can't see a single thing wrong with your policies, and yet we just can't take the risk of having a Labour SNP coalition.
Connor, would you say that's a successful campaign?
I thought the national campaign was depressing, and I actually said in a hustings here on campus that I thought we could get more engagement by delivering better politics. In the stuff that I was responsible for, which was my own campaign literature, there was no mention of any other political parties. It was all about what I tried to do in serving Bournemouth for the last 5 years and what I wanted to do for the next 5 years, my local priorities. Martin, you used half of your main election address to attack other political parties, and only half of it to promote what you wanted to do. I think it's in our hands to deliver a positive message, and we should do it, all of us.
The thing is, though, if you're going to the electorate saying we're doing well on the economy or we're doing well everywhere else, you've got to be able to say, well, actually, that's not true. And to expect people to not call you on it, or to say, actually, the figures they're putting out or the impression they're putting out is incorrect, and actually to put the alternative view, I think that's our duty to do that.
And to selectively attack somebody's voting record completely out of context, I mean, it's not the politics that I think people want. I think they want competing philosophies, competing visions of a better country.
We certainly did have a campaign that was very negative. We had an awful lot of bad rap from the press, you know, particularly the Labour Party. We were singled out almost single-handedly. You know, we were made to look very bad. It was a very concerted effort, and it's not a good example to set to young people, certainly not.
And also, at least you got press. Didn't matter what we did, we were never in the papers, which is not sensational enough.
Sorry, Liz, we've got time for one more quick question from someone. Yeah?
Oh, so the new Equalities Minister, Caroline Dinenage, she's actually anti-gay marriage, and I know this issue is at least very personal for Conor Burns. So how do you feel about this?
I think it's a big mistake. I think it's very regrettable that when half the parliamentary party in the last parliament voted for same-sex marriage, as I did, courageously led by the Prime Minister against probably the sentiment of a majority of the party grassroots, I think it's deeply regrettable that we couldn't find one colleague who had supported same-sex marriage to be the Equalities Minister. That's an attack on the appointment, not an attack on the appointee, because Caroline Dinenage is a wonderful lady.
Well, we'll come back to the audience shortly. First, we want to know whether or not you think the media is doing enough to inform and encourage a new generation to vote. We've been to Brighton following the Stand Up, Be Counted campaign by Sky News.
Hi there, so I'm here in Brighton, standing in front of a Stand Up, Be Counted campaign which Sky News is running throughout the country. We're here in Brighton talking to young people between 18 and 25 about how they're feeling about this year's election.
I don't just want to sit at home and watch things play out without me having a say in it.
I've always voted. I've always voted since I turned 18. They all overpromise. They say that they're going to do something and then they don't. I mean, the budget cuts on the police, the fire service, and obviously the NHS are ridiculous, and it's something that that's key parts of the infrastructure we need.
So Stand Up Be Counted is Sky News' campaign to hear from 16 to 25-year-olds, amplify their voices across Sky News' platforms. We're looking to encourage that age group to engage in politics and register to vote.
Are you registered to vote?
Yes, I am.
Yes, you are. And are you engaged with politics this year?
Not at all.
How come?
Not interested.
As I get older, I've become more aware of it, care more about it, because it's affecting me and my friends' lives and stuff. So
seeing as now I'm old enough to vote, I feel like I probably should. But my thing on it was I'm only going to vote if I've read enough about the people that I want to vote for. And also because my mum kind of forced me to.
Caroline Lucas of the Green Party, the local MP of Brighton, visited the campaign to share her views on young voters.
I think that there's more and more evidence that young people are getting engaged with this campaign. I think actually since the Scottish referendum, where we saw obviously votes at 16 making a difference, but it made politics interesting and exciting again, and I think a bit of that has come over the border to the rest of the country as well. So we're certainly finding that, for example, at our launch of our youth manifesto last week, lots of young people there really interested, really recognising in a sense that the decisions being made right now are going to be affecting the world that they're going to inherit.
After approaching young people in Brighton, it is clear to see that although engagement with these voters has improved, it is a challenge to get the next generation fully involved.
So we've got loads of comments coming in via social media. Chloe3712 says, politics was never taught in school, it should be on the curriculum. Michelle8971 wants to know, why should we bother voting when politicians don't stick to their promises? Always good to get your opinions, so keep those comments coming in on the hashtag on Twitter, Outvoted. So let's get back to our studio audience. We've got a question from Daisy.
So my question is, there's a lack of trust within young people. What do you think that you could do to basically make us trust and make us help us be encouraged to vote?
Yeah, we'll put that to Connor.
We can deliver on what we said in the manifesto that we were going to do. And that's the big difference between majority government and coalition government. Your manifesto in coalition becomes a negotiating document where you give away and compromise on promises you made. With a majority government, we have an obligation now to do exactly what we promised and transparently.
To be honest, you know, I'm 63. You're asking me how we can get young people to trust us. You tell us. You tell us. It's your job to tell us what
I think
how
some
to get us to
students
trust us.
would probably say tuition fees would be
Exactly.
one of the ways you could have got them to trust you.
Exactly. All I can say is exactly quite right. And I think that you know you have to look at things. You have to say someone made a major mistake. They made a complete mistake. They bodged it up completely. We got it wrong. We'd admitted it. We apologised. Is there any possibility to move on when you've made a mistake and you've apologised? You know you've done something wrong. Do you want people to let you go forward, or do you just want to keep banging on about the same thing that you made a mistake for? I think that's what we need. We need to admit that. We have done. We now need to move on and get trusted more, I think.
Well, yeah, Labour Party.
Big one I'd come straight in with, let's give 16-year-olds the vote. I mean, Connor mentioned earlier that he was in favour with that. Is he going to be putting a private member's bill in this session of Parliament to try and make that a reality?
If I got the ballot, I'd be very open-minded to doing that.
Can I just say, going back to trust, I'm with you on that. I've never trusted politicians, and to be absolutely honest with you, not these people, because people are different to parties, but these parties, I don't trust any of them, and that's why I'm with the Green Party. They've all negated on promises to us as people, and that's fundamentally why I'm with the Green Party, because I don't think that they're going to do that.
It would be great though if you could always do what you want to do, wouldn't it? I mean, what a wonderful life that would be, but it's just not going to happen.
I appreciate it can't always happen, but...
And can I just say also that all parties, you're quite right, just look at the Iraq war. We even had a go at us because we cocked up tuition fees. We didn't bomb half of Iraq that was voted on by the Labour Party and the Conservative Party. We're the one party that stood against that.
Our last leader voted against
Before we get into that, I'd like another question. Yeah?
The turnout this year was just, I think, 62%. What could be done to make the turnout like over 75% for future elections?
Well, one thing I suppose.
More engaged. Sorry.
Yeah. So, well, one thing that hasn't been mentioned is lowering the age. Would that help?
Yeah, I'm sure it would, and also, as was mentioned in one of the questions, political education in schools. I mean, I must say that many years ago, back in the 70s, when I was at school, we covered politics at school then, and it sort of disappeared from the curriculum. I really think it needs to be something that's on the national curriculum. It's mandatory to be taught in all schools, academies, free school. Any school which receives state funding should be obliged to teach political education to students.
Martin, what would you say on this?
Well, I was just wondering, in order to try and get the vote up, I think it's worth having a conversation about compulsory voting. Now, I'm not sure which way I'd fall on this yet, but it certainly works in Australia, where you have to go and vote, and yet there is a box at the bottom that says none of the above if you want to register that you don't want to.
And if you don't get vote, you get fined, is that?
That's correct, yeah.
How many non-voters did we have out of our audience here then? So neither of you guys voted? All three of you? All right, okay, so why then? Can I ask you why you didn't vote?
Well, I suppose part of it was that I was registered in a county, and I was in a different county, and I was in Bournemouth at the time, but also because to be honest, I didn't think my vote literally had any effect, and that's because of the two my home constituency at home is a heavily conservative area, so my vote, whatever I wanted to vote for, would have no effect, and here it's also a heavily conservative area, so if I wanted to, either way, my vote was kind of valueless.
And Daisy, just very briefly, why didn't you vote?
Again, like the whole trust issue. Also, I feel like, I know this might sound weird, but there should be like online voting or something that would attract students. For example, some people are lazy and they just don't want to go to polling stations, and it would be so much better if we just had like an online system where we could vote.
Okay, thank you very much, Daisy. Well, we're going to take a quick break now, but join us in a few minutes. We'll be discussing whether or not 16 and 17-year-olds should have the right to vote.